Hi, I'm Harris Harrington of Depersonalizationrecovery.com. The topic of this video is caffeine consumption and depersonalization disorder. Now, in this cup right here, I'm drinking decaffeinated coffee, which is important because if you have depersonalization or have had it in the past, drinking caffeine can make things a lot worse. Drinking caffeine amps up your sympathetic nervous system or your fight or flight response. This makes you much more stressed out than you were before. Okay, so the fight or flight response is basically the stress response. Now, depersonalization disorder is basically a disorder of chronic stress. Your stress system is exhausted. You've been feeling way too much stress from accumulated past trauma and stressful current circumstances. So when you add coffee on top of this, caffeinated coffee, or caffeinated teas, caffeinated sodas, whatever kind of caffeinated beverage, this makes things a lot worse because these things are like liquid stress. Okay, and you're just dumping that into your body and it makes things worse. Another thing is that people with depersonalization tend to have highly sensitive temperaments, highly sensitive personality types. So caffeine affects them differently. You may know people that can drink a large cup of coffee before going to bed and it doesn't affect them, right? So caffeine kind of affects people differently. And if you have depersonalization, you're one of those people who is probably hypersensitive to the effects of caffeine. The other thing that caffeine does is it can cause panic attacks. So very likely if you have depersonalization and you drink coffee, it could just cause outright panic attacks. In fact, panic disorder, which is a form of anxiety disorder, sometimes actually isn't panic disorder. It's just people are consuming caffeine and they don't realize that it's causing them to have panic attacks. So if you quit caffeine, that is going to help with depersonalization. Now, there are some downsides. There are some things that caffeine does to you that can be seen as beneficial. For one thing, it kind of improves your mood. It can just sort of boost good feelings. Another thing that caffeine does is it kind of eliminates the fogginess and the drowsiness that people with depersonalization often experience. People with DP often feel very foggy-headed. They feel derealization, cut off from the external world. And sometimes sipping caffeine can make you feel more alert, more focused, less foggy-headed, better attention, etc. But the problem is that you may have that for a little period, maybe 30 minutes, but then you start getting very fidgety and unrelaxed, unfocused, stressed out, and you might have a full-blown panic attack. Depersonalization symptoms often worsen when you are drinking caffeine. So caffeine is very important to get off of. Now, caffeine withdrawal can be very tough, and I know this because I really like the taste of coffee, and it can be tough to get off of caffeine. So withdrawal symptoms are really bad headaches, just feeling tired, feeling very depressed, and just having difficulty thinking positive thoughts is one example of caffeine withdrawal. And you're just very tired, you're very drowsy, you're feeling down, you have a headache, and it can take a week to get over those feelings. But it's really important to do that because once you get off caffeine, your nervous system is going to be much more relaxed. You're just going to have a better sense of well-being when you're off of caffeine and when your body gets accustomed to not having the caffeine. So it's really important to withdraw from caffeine. I mean, it can be very difficult to get off depersonalization and implement the techniques and methods I talk about in my program and on my website if you are on caffeine. You really need to get off it. You can try moderating your caffeine consumption to about 40 milligrams a day or less. Now 40 to 50 milligrams, that's about one shot of espresso. That's maybe a large cup of black tea. It tends to be fairly caffeinated. And that's got to be it. I mean, that or less. Because more than that, it can be really problematic. Now you might be thinking, well, I drink brewed coffee. That must be less worse than espresso. right? But actually, if you get something that's like a latte or an Americano where the espresso is sort of diluted with some other fluid, then that's actually less than brewed coffee. Brewed coffee has a ton of caffeine in it. I mean, if you get a venti coffee from Starbucks, it is hundreds of milligrams of caffeine, like 200 to 300 milligrams. I mean, if you reach about 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day, you could have serious problems. I mean, like, your heart might start not being functioning properly. You might have to go to the hospital. So it's really important to keep the caffeine down. Hundreds of milligrams a day is really a lot. So it's really important to stay off it. Caffeine is a stimulant. It increases the sympathetic nervous system. It increases anxiety. Yes, there are some benefits to it. I mean, green tea, for example, has caffeine, but it also has something called theanine in it, which is an amino acid that actually relaxes you. So kind of the combination of the theanine and caffeine kind of gives you a more moderated buzz. But even still, I mean, you can really get panic attacks out of drinking green tea if you have depersonalization. It's less worse than coffee, but it's really not good for you if you've got depersonalization. And it just, when you increase your anxiety, you're increasing your depersonalization symptoms. You're going to feel more disconnected from yourself, more disconnected from the reality. And having panic attacks is not good. It's not good to train. You're almost training your nervous system to be anxious, to have more anxiety. And that's not good. You want to train your nervous system to be relaxed and to practice having a relaxed lifestyle. So getting off of caffeine is one step in getting towards a more relaxed, more calm, more centered, less depersonalized lifestyle. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. Subscribe to this YouTube channel for a lot more videos, and check out my website for free articles, free videos, and my program, The Total Integration Method.